Hello guys, welcome to Dr. Devil. So if you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to get the notification. Moving to our today's first story posted by Lila_Anis. My parents divorced when I was in first grade. Not only did my dad disappear like Houdini, he stole my mother's ATM card to her personal account and drained her dry. My mother, being the saint she is, didn't even bat an eye. She still was cordial to him and never said a negative word about him. To me, my dad, albeit abandoning us, was still my hero. From first through fifth grade I had the usual abandoned by dad stories. Maybe 1 or 2 visits in a year and 50 times of me waiting by the front window with my suitcase packed to go to his house and him never showing up. My mom through all of this was supportive and never said an ill word about him. So he still stayed my hero. When I was in 6th grade my mother finally remarried and my father, who only had a picture of me at 8 months old in his wallet, went ballistic. Did I mention he never paid child support? He would use his father's social, they had the same name, to get away with it. After my mom remarried, he let it be known that I was now my stepdad's responsibility. He cut off communication with me until I graduated high school. He didn't attend my graduation or send a card. What he did do was write me an email thanking God he no longer had to pay child support. He didn't anyway. What really broke me was his ruthless and brutal attack on my mother. Attacking her weight, looks, teeth, and blaming any perceived negative traits that I had on her. For the first time I realized what a cowardly piece of shit he was. I responded in kind. He told me I was no child of his and that I was a waste. After that I vowed that I would hurt him. 10 years later, my father, not interested in my wedding or my son, reached out to me. You see, he is a diabetic, and one of his organs were failing and he didn't have long. He's too far down on the list and he needed someone in our family to donate. Nuclear revenge activated. I answered his email. I met up with him and pretended that I didn't hate his guts. I went and got tested to see if I was a match. I was. Did the therapy and met with doctors and his therapist. We scheduled the surgery. The day of the surgery we meet at the hospital. I smiled in his face and let him know that I wouldn't be going through with the surgery. I watched the confusion line his face. I just wanted you know that you're no father to me and you're a waste. I left the hospital and drive home. My mom was pretty annoyed with me that I took it that far. My father is dying and I will be attending the funeral out of spite. And I will let everyone know what a piece of shit he was. TLDR, father abandoned me and called me a waste. Later in life he needs an organ. I agree and match with him and abandon him at the hospital the day of the surgery after calling him a waste. He will die and I will ruin his funeral. Edit, my father was / is semi-obsessed with my mother. His attachment to us was only in his perceived ability to get back with my mother. In the beginning, he would call and make plans to see us. And just not show up. My mom would have to make up excuses. He has been married over 4 times and supports and loves his stepkids without a thought to us. Once my mother remarried he was done with us. He kept in contact with my mother through email but had no interest in talking to his children. I have reached out to him before. To invite him to my graduation, to let him know of my marriage, and that he was a grandfather. All I got back was pictures of his new wife's kiddos. Upon getting to know him after agreeing to donate, I went to one of his therapy sessions at his request. There I heard the story of the true reason he contacted me. I listened as he lamented about his impending death. How he was resigned to his fate, only to have his new wife remind him of his former kids and maybe one of them will donate. And he got excited because he had forgotten all about us and it was like hope renewed. Do you know how shitty it is to listen to the person who is responsible for your very existence talk about forgetting your very existence? Like I was a pair of sturdy old boots that gathered dust in the back of the hall closet. Now rediscovered I was to be worn to go shovel shit. I knew then I wasn't going to give him anything. I'm not worried about a will or being left anything. He had nothing to leave. He's the male equivalent of a gold digger. He only marries women who can take care of and support him as he mooches off of them. He stole thousands from my mother and she didn't press charges because she didn't want her children's father in jail. My mother was his first wife and he learned his lesson not to have kids of his own but to move into ready-made families. His ex-wives and their children have nothing nice to say about him. When I told him I wasn't going through with it, he understood exactly why. He nodded his head in understanding. I already was approached for money to contribute to the funeral and I will. Here are some comments. First commenter Gaster0699. He doesn't deserve a funeral, you just need to dump him in the woods and let the animals have him. Second commenter Tiger Girl 1975. I had a similar situation, but I was far too pissed to take it as far as you did. I just nuked the bridge he tried to build. Mine wanted my liver after he physically, emotionally, and sexually abused me as a small child. My mother wasn't happy with how I handled it either, but it wasn't her decision. It was mine. Third commenter Art Music Trash. On the short side but brutal nevertheless, and the fact that you waited years to get revenge was really great op. Fourth commenter Shadow-64. That's cold as hell op, good job, hope your family is doing well now. Fifth commenter Grifty Lifts. As someone with toxic birth parents, this was particularly and viscerally satisfying. Thank you for doing this, from one survivor to another. You helped more than just you. He won't be able to hurt anyone else now, either. Now moving to the second story posted by Cummins_lovers. So I worked for a security company. Not a hard job, super easy, state minimum wage was $11.59 per hour. I was working 8 hours a night from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. driving a mobile patrol security car. Like I said, probably the easiest job you could have. Well, after a couple of months of a normal schedule, I got called into work and was told my colleague was fired. He broke into a tenant's apartment because he wanted food. I genuinely could not understand what kind of ducked-up logic he had. I ended up being made to work 7 days a week and my hours were bumped up to 12 hours a night. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I didn't mind at first because my supervisors claimed, we will have a replacement within a few weeks. 4 months later, I'm still working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. My birthday weekend is coming up and I put in for time off so I could leave with my family. I have 16 days till my vacation starts. Day 1 they give me a guy to train. He never showed for his first night of training. Day 2 business as usual. Day 3 new trainee, this one showed up, made it to the end of the shift, and seemed genuinely interested. Day 4 dude didn't show. Day 5 to 8 business as usual. Days 9 to 13 third new trainee, and his training was spot on. No issues. Day 14, new trainee's first day driving the company car. Day 15, finally my first day off in nearly 5 months. The next day I packed my shit with my family and took off to my family's cabin. As we pulled into my mom's cabin's property, my trainee calls me asking me to cover his shift. I was 8.5 hours away in the middle of butt nowhere. The only reason I have cell service is my truck has a cell range extender. Seriously, the best investment I've ever made, but right then I hated it. I told him no, he had to do his job and show up to the shift. After the call, I shut my phone off and left it turned off the entire 5-day weekend, and enjoyed my time with my family. It was a much-needed break. The end of my 5-day vacation comes and I turn my phone back on and am greeted by 400+ missed calls from my supervisors. And I shit you not, 3,000 texts from my supervisor and my trainee. The trainee didn't show to his shift but claimed I was gonna be there. I called my boss and explained where I was, and why I was not there, then reminded him about my vacation that he signed off on. No big deal, heat is off me. The new guy gets yelled at for lying. A month later, my trainee totals the car. He had been drinking on the job, texting, and driving, and destroying the company rig. Then proceeds to tell us something that floored my supers and me. Supervisor, what the duck were you thinking driving drunk in a company rig? Trainee, I wasn't thinking, this is my second DUI. No, you didn't misread that, he said it and I burst out laughing. Me, dude, if you're not fired after this you will go down in history as the luckiest ducking bee it starred in history. This ducker was still working for that company for another year. During that time they milked as much out of his paycheck as they could to pay for the car he destroyed. Fast forward to June 2018. I've been working 7 by 12-hour days a week for 14 months. No days off. My body is starting to suffer from it and I'm starting to develop some pretty alarming symptoms. I procrastinated as much as I could and ignored these symptoms, trying to avoid going to the doctor's office. Never really liked doctors because I've had a shitty experience with one. The night comes when I cannot get out of bed. My body is completely weak and unresponsive. I can barely roll over until my family helps me sit up and get me into the truck to go to the ER. More on my symptoms. Every once in a while I would lose the ability to move my left leg or my left arm. My body would feel weak, like I was being weighed down with lead cast weights. Almost like I was stuck on Earth experiencing gravity from Jupiter. I seriously lost 80% control. Sometimes it was sudden, sometimes it was gradual. Imagine driving your car and losing mobility and can't even lift your finger enough to drive your car. It was terrifying, and I couldn't convince my bosses that it was getting dangerous and I needed them to stop scheduling me till I figure this out. Back to my ER trip. As I get into the ER, I drop down to my knees and I had to ask a random guy to help me back into my feet. I'm 6 at 312 pounds. My mom couldn't possibly get me up because she was 68 years old and super fragile. Anyway, I got help, got examined, and they diagnosed me with Graves' disease. Great, what the duck does that mean? Graves' disease means my thyroid produces a bunch of thyroid hormones and won't stop. My brain tells it to stop, but management and production lines are not listening to each other. So my body is so full of this hormone and it's overloading my system. Eventually, it was determined that I needed to get surgery. But that was nearly 11 months out. Now the doc says you can't work till this is figured out. If you do work, it's light duty only. No walking and no driving. This is important later. I get scheduled to watch a site. Light duty. They told me to just sit in my truck and watch. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm there for 4 nights. Night 1, no issues, nothing to report. Night 2, our first issue client, your guard is not patrolling. Super, we understand. He has a medical condition that prevents him from walking right now. Client, that's not our fault, make his patrol. That night they let me drive my truck as a patrol. That was a huge problem. Night 3, I was forced to walk around and patrol the area. I'm struggling to stay standing and I do short patrols. Another major mistake. The client was not happy. Night 4, this is the final night. I made a walking patrol and went down, and could not get back up. The area I'm in is an open field with a railroad track. This train I'm guarding is out in the sticks. Oh, did I mention I can't move and I'm an unarmed security guard? There were cougars and coyotes in the area. I was defenseless and so weak I couldn't even scream for help. Then it starts raining. I tried reaching around to find my phone, but the way I landed my arm was trapped under my stomach. I'm alone, in poor heel. No radio, no one coming to help me, no one knew what was happening. Wild animals were nearby and they could easily kill and eat me. This is a really bad situation. Suddenly my phone starts ringing. My manager is calling, but I can't reach my phone. If he calls again and I don't answer, he has to come out to see me. I hear the phone stop ringing, and I expect it to ring again. 5 minutes, nothing. 30 minutes, nothing. 47 minutes after he calls, another employee stops by trying to find me. I see him, and I try to scream, but all I can do is a grunt. Luckily my coworker heard it and called an ambulance for help. He also called the supervisors, the client, and the police. He helps me roll onto my back, and I finally can breathe correctly. 33 more minutes, the EMTs are here and they get me up off the ground and help me up, and I assure them that if I sit in my truck, I'll be okay. Police arrive, followed quickly by both the supers and the client. The client is informed I spent most of my shift laying on the ground and it's all on my truck's dashcam. My supers realized just how screwed they are and they finally understood they were breaking the law. Then all 3 men are informed by the police that the medical note is negligence. My doctor was promptly called and we had a huge meeting with my doc, his lawyer, my mother, my coworker, the supers with the company attorney, and the client. My doc dropped a huge lawsuit in their laps and it required that the company pay up and surrender their business license. Their attorney tried to settle with a lesser dollar amount. I refused. Every time he tried to negotiate, I upped the price again and again till they figured out just how upset I am. They gave up their business license and paid the terms. A major court case would destroy what's left of the business. That was September 2018. I had to wait for the NDA to expire to post this. 2019 in May, and my surgery went fantastic. I feel great and I have never felt better. Here are some comments. First commenter NAVAR0706. I held my breath during the night. 3 paragraphs. Glad you're doing well. Are you fully recovered? Side note, thank you for making it readable using paragraphs, unlike 90% of the posts here. Second commenter Top Code Original 1. I loved this story, glad you are okay. Third commenter Snowstar. Damn glad you're alright, you had angles look out for you that night.
Now moving to our final story posted by Superbitter Throwaway. It's coming up on the 5th anniversary of this, and I still don't regret it. Mom's reached the point where she laughs about it now, so I figured it's time to tell the story. On my alt cause so many RL friends know the story edit. My main is my anonymous account, the alt is the one I don't care if people find. I love tattoos. My mom and dad hate them, say it's damaging your body, permanent, pretty sure that's the point, blah blah blah. Mom would say when you live on your own and pay your health insurance, you can get a tattoo. So I went to school in Ireland for my bachelor's and grad diploma, because I studied abroad, fell in love, and never looked back. I wanted to commemorate my time there and remember it forever, and what better way than a tattoo? I'd already gotten a second ear piercing before Christmas, and only received an eye roll in response from both parents, but there were still those 2 little rules to consider. Here's where the malicious compliance kicks in. I took out my student loans no cosigner, so I was living in Ireland on my own money. Irish health insurance is separate from US insurance, and as an international student mine was covered by the school, coverage which I paid for. So, conditions having been met, I got an Irish harp on my ankle based on a design I'd drawn myself. I love it. Despite having technically followed her rules, Mom was not happy, and insists to this day that I should have been a lawyer. Extra kicker, the harp design was on a paper taped to my door at home. I asked Mom if she could take a picture of it for me without telling her why. She was kind enough to take it off the door, scan it, and email it to me. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please don't forget to hit the like button and comment below. If you don't want to miss such more videos, please don't forget to subscribe to us.